Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to another live stream artist chat. It's been a while. We haven't done one for a few weeks. Things have been a bit busy here with us getting ready for the reveal, the live stream reveal of the mobile art hive. We're super excited about that and a little bit tired, a little bit exhausted. It's been a long time coming, but we're so excited we have a chance to finally introduce you folks to it. That will be this Thursday, December 16th at 7 p.m. on YouTube. Look for a live stream on YouTube. Set a reminder there. Subscribe, like all the things to the Living Room Community Art Studio on YouTube. But that's where the live stream reveal and Q&A will be. So tune in this Thursday, 7 p.m. to see the new mobile art studio. It's wild. It's awesome. And I can't wait to get it out there in community. But today we are here to chat with someone, an artist, maker, wonderful creative spirit from the community who we've known for a long time. So this will be a bit of a catch up. Those of you who used to come to the old studio space may be familiar with Lisa Kozma, who you could usually find sitting at one of the front tables in that sunlight that used to pour in and warming things up and just inside the doors. And usually they would be knitting, they might be crocheting, they might be writing poetry or journaling. Some others of you might remember Lisa from the baseball game, the Blue Jays game, where she was caught on camera knitting. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. But it just shows you art happens everywhere. And I think it's fitting that perhaps on our last artist chat of 2021, we get to chat with someone that knows the studio inside and out for a very long time now. And without further ado, let's invite Lisa on. Let's see, here we go. Let's go live. All right, let's see what's happening here. Let's see what's happening here. Where, Lisa, where are you? Ah, hi. How are you, Lisa?
I'm actually I'm well today. It's been one of those days. This morning this morning was a low, but on a positive note, I did end up going to the gym. And I was able to get a lot of that out. It was a good release.
That's good. And you know what, I can't wait to talk a little bit about that as well, because since the studio closed, you have also just taken ownership of your physical wellness in such an astonishing way. And it's been such an inspiration seeing you move forward, taking care of yourself. And like you're running marathons, you're doing all sorts of stuff that I can't imagine myself doing. And I'm sure folks out there will want to know how you found your way to that.
Oh, for fitness, actually, with fitness, it wasn't until I had pneumonia back in 2018. So 2016, from 2016 to 2017, I was at a very dark place. That's when I went to the studio a lot, because I went through a really tumultuous breakup and things weren't going as well at the time with things weren't going well at the time with.
Was that your cat? I just have to ask, was that your cat that you were just shooing away there?
Luna trying to eat the flower, but things weren't going well at the time, 2016, 2017, and all aspects of my life. And then in 2018 in September, I ended up getting pneumonia.
Oh wow.
And I was off work for a while, and I lost the first 10 pounds. So I focused on nutrition. Thank you, Laurel.
Yeah, I think it's love for you on the live stream.
Eased myself into the gym, and then I hired a trainer and just stayed consistent with it.
So that's been a part of your wellness journey. It sounds like it involves, coming to the studio, reconnecting with your creative self, and just building on top of that, taking care of your physical self as well.
Yeah, it was a lot of taking care of my physical self and really investing in myself. But the thing is, even though at the time I took care of my physical health, it was the mental health, because thank you, Tyler. It was the pressure of like, I got to do this, I got to do that. But mentally, I was just getting really tired. But then once I reached my goal, I'm like, I'm going to keep at it, have a better balance this time.
Mm.
And I took care of my mental and emotional health.
That's amazing. Okay, so before we get too much into that, yeah, there might be folks watching or listening right now who don't know you, who've never met you through the studio before. Can you introduce yourself to the folks who are listening? How would you describe yourself?
So I describe myself, I love to march to the beat of my own drum. So I graduated the CIC program in 2013. I ended up finding something in my field of work right after school, and it was temporary summer job, and then I found something in October of 2013.
Yeah.
And I got into knitting back in 2016. It just came to me in a dream.
Really?
And yeah, it was so weird. So it came to me in a dream. So for years, my mom tried to teach me. So my mom would knit, my mom and my grandma, they both knit. I come from that generation of knitters, makers, crafty people. So what happened was one day I went to my mom. I'm like, Mom, I want to learn how to knit, because it came to me in that dream.
And she was like, finally, oh my gosh.
Yeah, because she kept trying to teach me the whole time, and it was meltdowns galore, because but if that taught me anything, it taught me to be patient, and it taught me to be patient and to just trust the process. It's like with knitting is crafts and stuff. It's like with fitness. You just be patient, trust the process of it. And it led from making lots of scarves and then making all kinds of things. And making that Hudson's Bay blanket at the game. Oh.
So can you tell?
I love that memory.
Can you tell people who maybe missed that? Because I remember seeing, I think there was even a newspaper article about it. Like, it was everywhere for a little while.
Oh, okay. So here's how it all started. So it was a tradition every year for my birthday. It was a tradition, father-daughter Blue Jays game, because my dad was a diehard sports fan.
Yeah.
And we would go to the Jays game because that was the tradition. He said, you know what? Guess what? Every year on your birthday, if we can, we'll go to the Blue Jays game, the Canada Day game. And I brought my knitting. My dad, he was like, come on, you're not bringing that. Come on. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm just going to bring it for the train ride. So I had to convince him. I'm like, I'm just bringing it for the train ride, the taxi ride, but I'll leave it at the front. So I ended up bringing it in because the security had to ask the other security guard, is this allowed? It's like, yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm just bringing it in because I don't have a ticket to leave it at the front.
Yeah.
I just ended up bringing it, and that game turned into a 19-inning series game. I haven't sat that long in a game. My dad was ready to leave by 17 innings. I was just sitting there knitting. At first, I was very resistant to it because I'm like, no, I want to see the whole game. But you know what? He was right, and I'm glad I look back at it now. As much as I was mad at him at the time.
Yeah.
I'm glad I listened. It's like, wow, he knew I couldn't really handle I can't handle crowds that are too large. Even with races, I've still learned how to I manage crowds much better. But at the time, I had a hard time with them. So yeah, until I got back to my dad's place, I had people writing on my wall saying, I saw you at the game. And a girl, she took a picture and showed me. I wish somebody would have recorded that because I was looking for that
Yeah.
on YouTube. But when I said on YouTube, I'm like, hey, I'm the girl that knit at that game. Two people were like, oh, well, you just basically wasted a ticket. And like, oh, really?
No, no.
Oh, no, I was just having fun. And people in the crowds, they were curious to see what I was making. And I'm like, oh, it was a blanket. The blanket almost caught the ball. I wasn't paying attention. I was sitting at the front with my dad where the dugout, like where that part was,
Yeah.
where they shoot the ball. And I was watching the ball. Luckily, I have good multitasking skills. So, no, I wasn't just knitting all day. I was knitting and watching the game. But I have no shame bringing my knitting in public.
Yes.
No shame. Honestly, people are always going to say, oh, don't do this. Why are you doing that? And it's like, I'm I'm just gonna do it anyways. I'm gonna march to the beat of my own drum. Like you know what? My dad always did things. My dad, he did things his way.
Hmm.
And if he said he was gonna do something, he did it. And I think that's where I get that from.
I love it. It was such a great moment. And that was a really special game for a lot of people. And I think what you did there was demonstrate, look, you can be many things all at once. And for some folks, that's like knitting at the game actually helps them to appreciate the game, to focus on it even more, right?
Exactly. And for me, it's helped me it's helped me socially actually because I struggle socially.
Hmm.
I I do. And it's helped me because I'm focused on something. Thank you, Laura. And yeah, it allows me to focus on something, but also it invites people in to say like, oh, what are you making? And
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people's stories. I would hear their stories about how either they used to knit, someone in their family knit, or they were always curious about it. I've had people say I should sell things, but I'm like, I appreciate it, but I think for me, it's more of an outlet, a healthy outlet.
Yeah.
And for me, it just wouldn't feel, if I were to sell it, it wouldn't, it wouldn't feel like, I would feel more like I was doing it for profit as opposed to a hobby.
Hmm.
It wouldn't for me, it wouldn't feel like a hobby, but I always have gifts around. I always have a gift to give somebody.
What a beautiful thing.
Thank you. And I'm reading the comments from Laurel and Tyler. Thank you guys.
Yeah, Laurel and Taylor, there's a lot of
Yeah.
coming your way. Like, I think it seems like what you're saying is resonating with a lot of people. Like, being able to be yourself means knowing yourself well enough that you can create boundaries for yourself, make choices, and take creative risks. But it's all, if you don't know yourself well enough, it won't ever be on your terms. So if I can ask this, but how long, what was it that helped you get to this point? I mean, it sounds like your dad was a hugely influential person in your life with regards to like learning that inspiration to learn about you, who you are, to trust yourself. Uh, was that like, were there other things along the way that helped you?
Yeah, my mom, she also helped me because she never gave up on me in terms of like the schools and fighting for my needs and supports. She's been the biggest person in my life, and my family's been the biggest person in my life, and a lot of my friends, everybody has been huge in my life, but my dad's been huge in terms of teaching me how to just be myself and like just never having to worry about like changing, even though there were things that he didn't agree with, he just still went, he still went along with it.
Yeah. Now, I know maybe this is a good time to talk a little bit about your activism and your advocacy in autism awareness, because I say this so often, folks might be bored of me saying this, but working in the art hive and at the living room, I felt like it was the greatest gift to me because I got to meet all these amazing people who taught me about what it was like and teach me still what it's like to be them. And you are one of those people who taught me so much about like neurodiversity and being like just the growth. Like there's always something new to learn, and I think it's important for everyone to learn about this because we can communicate more effectively and enjoy life more when we're spending time with one another. When did you, like, was there ever a moment where you decided, I'm going to be an activist, I'm going to, do this?
It started when I was 19, coming out of the autism closet,
Ah.
because that's where I really found the community, and I started discovering I discovered the autism community. First, it was parents of autistic children.
Mm-hmm.
But by sharing my story, I had other parents come to me saying it gave them hope for their children. And then as I got older, I joined a peer group and I saw other autistic adults as well. Like they were like me. And then it was great. Like the peer group was great because it allowed me to connect with people who, wow, I found my community. I found people who just got it. But that taught me a lot about generalizing. Like not everybody's like me. I'm not like them. It's a linear spectrum. Well, it's linear. So it's very different. Everybody's impacted in different ways. And I've met people who were diagnosed late in life. I was lucky to be diagnosed at 4. I was 4 years old, and a lot of females get diagnosed, not even when they're 4. They don't. They get diagnosed a lot later, and it's harmful when it's later because for years, I wondered for years that what's wrong with me? Why am I getting in trouble all the time? Why am I really, Luna? Luna, get your butt out of there. I'm sorry. But I wondered for years, like, why am I getting in trouble in school? Why am I getting yelled at? Why is everybody always getting mad at me? Why am I am I a bad kid? Am I a bad kid? Am I a bad person? Am I are all these things that I'm being told true?
Interesting. Yeah.
And it really hurt. And I didn't accept it. In my high school, my teen years, I was trying to mask. So a lot of things that autistic people do, and I do this too. And this is why they say ABA is bad, even though I'm reserved about that. I try not to get involved in those discussions.
And when you say ABA, for folks who may not,
ABA is applied behavior analysis. It's a type of therapy.
Okay.
And I know a lot of autistics, they speak out about it. But a lot, yeah, that's what it is. But a lot of it have been affected because it teaches them how to mask.
So I think
masking. So what masking means is when you appear to be less autistic. So less autistic and you're repressing all your stims, you're repressing all your meltdowns, you're literally repressing, and your passing as neurotypical. If I had a nickel for every time someone said, oh, I wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
For me, I usually I'm like, oh, okay. I don't let things like that get to me. Yeah, I don't let it get to me
But
usually.
it's got to be difficult though. Like we have some, so Andrew 1100 is what says, what a great turning point, even greater that you recognize this time to put it out to the universe. Wonderful experiences, what wonderful changes, right?
Yeah.
So like, but it seems like those wonderful changes have been kind of like they've been hard earned by you, because it sounds like in your life there was first the like, which I hear from a lot of folks in a lot of different things,
Hmm.
like wondering, just not knowing, right? Like being this idea that we're supposed to live up to someone else's expectations or be like
Yeah.
else. And then like finally, like when you learn that, okay, my brain works differently than someone else's, that's, you know, it must feel like, does it feel amazing to learn that, to go, okay, gosh, it's not me, I'm not bad or whatever.
Yeah, it actually it feels good. And like, I always wondered, like, why is it my brother? Yes, because I always wondered too for years, like, why is it my brother? He does this, this, and this. Why do they trust him more than, like, why don't they trust me? Why was I always exempt from all these classes? Why were things too hard for me as a
Mm.
kid? Why did I always get I got just one teacher for me, always had that one-on-one.
Hmm.
So in school, having that taken that was hard.
Yeah.
But there were things about me I learned as I started learning more about why my brain works the way it does. I started to not only connect with the community and connect with the autistic community, but I also learned, like, wow, everything I'm saying it's valid.
Yeah.
Like, it's all valid. Wow, I'm not the only one that is going through that. Oh, this is common what I'm going through. Other people have gone through that. Other people have gone through worse.
Hmm. I think one of the things that excites me about the conversations that are happening within the autism community and about like breaking free from expectations and, you know, naming things like masking, that, you know, teaching other people about what this is. It's, I think in other areas of life, people are also beginning to realize that for a long time we've been trapped between this binary of, you know, so-called normal and not normal, and how wrong that is. And
Yeah.
how no one should have to mask. No one should feel the need to be someone that they're not. Like, I feel like that conversation has been opened up in large part because of the work like folks like you have been doing for the community. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing is too, I've had to learn to accept that unmasking, that when I came out of the autism closet, that's where I learned unmasking. Unmasking is where you become more autistic. Unmask. I learned all my my stims would come out.
Yeah.
It took time. Like, my family would say things like, you never used to do, like, this never used to happen. Why? Oh, you're saying this, you're saying that. Like, don't do this, don't do that. And it's like, this is what I need to do.
Mm.
It's like, even with family functions, I had to learn with family functions.
Yeah.
Before I go in, I have to just either go for a walk, a small walk before I go in, because the long car ride,
Yeah.
and not only if I don't go for a walk, I have to at least, before I make my rounds to say hi to everybody, I'll just go into a room just to recharge. So I had to learn, like, instead of making people or making children less autistic and teaching them how to mask,
Mm.
you could teach, I think that a lot of the therapies should be autistic led,
Mm-hmm.
actually autistic people. And I also feel like if autistic people are going to be, or if they're going to have autism organizations, autism organizations should be autistic led, that support autistic people, not organizations like Autism Speaks that are against autistic people.
Lisa, can I nominate you for Prime Minister? I think.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
These are such good things to hear. And also I think there's got to be more conversations just about like diversity in general.
Diversity in general, yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like all the things I'm hearing you talk about can be applied in so many situations, especially, well, it's, right now, folks might be watching later once it's archived, but we're heading into the holiday season, which is a very difficult and stressful time for so many people for so many reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Like the kind of radical self-care and advocacy I see you giving, or honoring yourself with, and the processes that you're putting in place. Like if each one of, if everyone like have permission to do that for themselves in whatever way felt necessary, I feel like we'd be moving through this time with more joy and more confidence and clarity and all of those things. Yeah, I loved that so much, so much.
Thank you. With the holidays, I find, oh my gosh, I find the holidays, I'm still trying to navigate the holidays, but
you're not alone.
COVID was a major, oh my God. So last year, COVID, it was the quietest Christmas ever, but it didn't feel the same because I'm so used to the routines of seeing my dad's side of the family, then seeing my mom's side of the family. And then last year it was all video chat, and it was a big, huge change.
Yeah.
And last year my dad cooked a spaghetti dinner. But I'm like, you know what? Change, that's okay. This year it's going to be different, but I have a better plan for the holidays. So I'm less overwhelmed, and that means taking more time to recharge when needed. And my word of advice to other autistic people out there, anyone, and not just autistic people, anyone who struggles during the holidays, going to family functions, because I come from a big family, is don't be afraid to set your boundaries. Don't be afraid to tell people what it is that you need at that moment. Don't be afraid to make accommodations, like say going to a quiet room where you can just shut the door, be by yourself. You need to stim. I vocal stim. So when I talk to myself, I've been doing this for years. I do this for years.
Okay.
I have discovered it's a vocal stim.
Okay, so 2 questions before we go into that, which I'm really curious about. For folks who may not be familiar, can you explain what a stim is?
So stimming is a self-stimulatory behavior. So it could be that. Actually pacing. So I pace to stim. So this one is very common. I've commonly fallen victim to getting in trouble for this. Like it's happened at my job. It's happened at different places. If I'm lightly pacing, so here's the difference. If I'm lightly pacing around, if I lightly pace, it's just because I'm getting too overstimulated by sitting for a long period of time that I just need to recharge from that task, then come back to it freely. If I'm heavy pacing, that's when I'm feeling really anxious or stressed or irritated. It's the heavy pacing. And it's a way just for me to just trying to calm myself down. So we all stim actually. If we're dancing, we're stimming. If we're dancing, we're actually stimming. And believe it or not, we all stim. If you're doing this, we're all stimming or snapping the fingers. We're stimming.
Doodling while you're doing something else.
Doodling. When you talk to yourself or singing, that's also stimming because it's a vocal stim.
Okay.
And what ABA does, it teaches autistic children to repress all that. That's why. But for when I have to repress it, it's literally having to hard knuckle it. Someone, actually, a guy that I went to see the lights with, he described a stim to me. Like it's literally like holding it in and holding it in. For me, I describe it like it's a pressure cooker. When I have to hold it in, it's like I have to hard knuckle it.
Yeah.
The pressure cooker about to pop.
Which is not like, if you're describing that to me, that's not a good thing. That sounds,
No,
it sounds exhausting, but it also sounds like that's not leading anywhere positive for you. It may be of benefit to someone else who maybe feel like, does awkward or whatever. I'm not sure why they would feel awkward, but it doesn't sound like it benefits you at all.
no, and what that does, and I'm not the only autistic person who's spoken out about it. Actually, on TikTok, autistic TikTok, and other autistic influencers on Instagram, Facebook, they all speak out about what masking feels like and having to hold things in. It also causes, not only will it cause the meltdowns, depression, anxiety, but it also causes burnout, autistic burnout. And that's what I've been going through that a lot more lately. But now I'm at a point that I'm slowly getting out of that I'm slowly starting to get out of that burnout, slowly recovering from it.
Yeah. I suppose there might be times, and I want to return to the vocal stims that you were mentioning, because it sounds like they're helpful. And as someone who talks to myself, I talk to myself all the time, especially if I'm having a really difficult day. Kind of, I talk to myself like I'm a friend. Like I'll be like, I'll pose a question or share it, like talk the problem out and talk back to myself to sort things out. So I'm curious if there are overlaps there. But it's an interesting, I think the burnout, does it come from recognizing that you've been accommodating other people above, like putting yourself at risk by accommodating others too much? Is that where the burnout happens?
A lot of the burnout can lead, it is for overmasking. If there's, for me, it's if there's too much change, way too much change all at once, and just not having that safety plan in place. That's just for me.
Yeah.
For me, if I'm overworking, too much masking, and not taking enough recharge time to myself.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that a lot of folks can relate to on one level or not, or another rather. I feel like, yeah, we put ourselves at risk when we're not honoring those signals we get from ourselves that are saying, you're tired, step back, take a breather, take a rest, reorganize, evaluate, plan out. It sounds like you've had to teach yourself to do that for yourself.
Yes, I had to teach myself how to step back. I had to learn how to recognize when I'm about to go into sensory overload. I had to learn that sometimes I don't, sometimes I don't recognize it, but as I got older, I became more aware. And as I'm more aware of that, I had to learn, like, this is what works for me, this is what doesn't, or what works for me at that moment.
Yeah, because it might not work tomorrow, but if it works right now, then that's great, right?
Exactly. I've had to learn for myself. For me, I actually made a TikTok video on how to tell if I'm about to go into sensory overload. The biggest one, if I'm snapping my fingers, if I'm heavy pace, very, very heavy heavy, fast pacing, if I'm breathing really heavy, or the biggest one, sudden mood change. I could be really happy, things
Mm,
could be really well, and if my mood, I do a 180 mood change. I suddenly start getting mad. I suddenly start snapping.
yeah.
That's when I know I'm in it's sensory overload.
So,
And
oh, go ahead.
oh no, that's when I'm in sensory overload.
So does
That's when sensory overload.
the stimming come in the other, like, is there a way that you use it? It sounds like you also use the stimming to help yourself. So with the vocal piece, is that something that you find helps you?
Um, I do find it does help me when I need it, but
Yeah.
it's also saved me in many situations. This actually gave me an idea on a video. There's some stims, there are stims, if you're smart about it, they'll save you. My vocal stem of lone talking has actually helped me. If I'm going out for a late night walk and I have my phone on me,
Yeah.
I just go like this. I'll pretend like I'll be listening to my music, but I'll be talking, I'll be vocal stimming. And that actually helps because then strangers aren't going to know that I'm alone. They'll know that I'm talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And in a situation, if I'm ever, God forbid, in a situation where somebody follows me, I can easily call it out. How I can easily call that out.
Mm.
In public too, I can just just have my phone with me, pretend I'm talking on the phone, but actually stimming. So it can actually save me. It saved me in situations.
Mm.
It's knowing when it's in public when to use it
Yeah.
and being careful, just being careful, being aware of your surroundings, but especially if you're ever alone and you have a phone on you, use it in that situation.
That that sounds, it's kind of like wearing your headphones when you just need to, like, even though you might not be listening to music and you just need to just zone out for a little while to take space.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's the little ways we find to cope and take care of ourselves and be true to ourselves, which I think is the most, like, one of the most important things that I've learned from you in time. And you know, I was thinking about this because you've known the studio in lots of different forms, and one of the things that I always appreciated about you is that uh, kind of your honest observations about community life and the honest, you know, the questions that you would ask and the, you know, the corrections, the times where you would be like, no, Mary, like that's wrong. And this is actually, you know, what this means. You've been such an excellent teacher in this journey. And uh, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for that, I suppose.
You're welcome. I'm actually very grateful for the studio because the studio's been there for me through when I was not in a good place. The studio was there for me. And even on my journey to health and fitness, the studio is still there for me.
Mm,
And I met a lot of great people. And being at the studio taught me not to be judgmental and that everyone has a different story.
mm.
And I met a lot of great people, even though I was really reserved. I met great people out of the studio,
Mm.
and I learned that everybody, despite what they have, everybody's human.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, you need to meet different people. You need to meet different people to grow.
Yep. And that, I mean, that's the difficult thing about humaning, right? Because it'll be easy if we only surround ourselves with the people we feel safe with and comfortable with. And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
But if you can find those places in your life and the people to sort of walk alongside you in that journey, you know, that will help introduce you to the new things and the new people. And, we learn more about ourselves as well when we meet other people, even when it's uncomfortable.
Oh, exactly. Like even through my fitness journey, I met so many different people.
Yeah.
I started following a lot of different people, and I met people who were on that same path, had that same interest. In the running community, I met
Mm.
so many different people, and I had different experiences,
Yeah.
like pretty good experiences. And then I met people in the autistic community, which that taught me self-acceptance. Every person you meet, this is the thing, like every person you meet, they bring something to the table, and then you could take that with you, or you can say, hey, this is something I didn't like.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn for next time. It's like being at different races. I've done so many races.
Hmm.
In 2019, I did 10 races, but each race was different. Like, oh, you know what? I like this. Next time, next race, I'm going to do this. Oh, I liked what I did this one. Oh, this one wasn't so good.
Yeah.
It was all those experiences that they were needed to grow.
Hmm.
And that's something fitness taught me. That saved me actually. Fitness, knitting, my cat Luna,
Yeah.
she's been there for me. But those communities, those interests led me to different communities, led me to meet a lot of amazing people. Like being in college in 2011, from 2011 to 2013, I met a lot of different students. I had a lot of different classes that I thought I wasn't gonna like.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, I'm so glad I took stress, wellness, and nutrition, even though I thought I hated it. Wow, I actually like psychology, sociology. Wow. I'm glad I took world religions because I watched 90 Day Fiance and I'm aware of different religions and cultural backgrounds, even though at the time I didn't like it. I reached out to Rick Kerr, who taught world religions.
Yes.
And I said, you know what, Rick, after watching 90 Day Fiance, you know, and being obsessed with it, I am so glad I took world religions, even though I was against it at first.
What's nine? Okay. What's 90 day what?
90 Day Fiance.
Okay. Is this a TV show? What is it?
Yeah, it's a TV show. It's on TLC. And so so what it is Americans, even Canadians, but too, they should show Canadians too. Anyway, so Americans, say you meet somebody you fall in love with that lives across the country, across the world, and they can either bring them to America, and they're on a spousal visa, so they have within 90 days
Okay.
to get married, or otherwise the other person has to go back to their country.
Okay.
Or the other way, which I finished watching, the other way is where the Americans move to their country
Oh.
to do that, and then they got to get married. But then before the 90 days is where they meet for the first time, then they decide whether they're going to go through with the visa or not.
This show sounds like
Yeah.
super intense.
It's actually, I love it. I really love it. That taught me a lot about cultural differences.
Hmm.
Because even I met different people when I put myself out there online. I met people of different cultures. That made me realize I actually like cross-cultural dating. And it made me also see, like, sometimes we're not meant to meet the love of our life within 20 kilometers radius of us.
Mm.
Sometimes sometimes the person who has good intentions for us is across the world.
So it sounds like there's as far as relationship building goes, it sounds like, you've been focusing on that for yourself as well. Like the more you understand yourself, the better, or is it easier to, kind of put yourself out there into the world in ways you wouldn't have before?
Yeah, like I met when I started learning a language, when I started learning Russian, I connected with exchange partners all the way in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan. And I met people from all across the world, and I'd help them, they helped me. A lot of friendships came out of it. And that taught me about different cultures too. And to them, it's like, wow, well, it's poutine. Oh, it looks so good. Or what does this mean? What's that mean? And it was really very interesting. I still have my language partners. I still keep in touch with a good few of them.
So I've forgotten about, so knitting, you knit, you write, because you also wrote a lot of, I remember you writing a lot of poetry at the studio.
Yeah, I do like to write poetry, and it's funny because I tapped back into that recently.
Mm.
I've been looking at all my poems that I wrote back when it was spoken poetry, and I'm like, you know what? I got to change these around. But something my Aunt Kathy taught me, and she shared an interesting fact with me.
Okay.
Writers, what they do, they are always going back to something. Before they fully submit something, they always go back to something and they're always editing it.
There is some truth.
They're really happy.
Yeah.
It take a writer years for them to finally be satisfied before submitting a book in or before submitting a piece of poetry in. It takes them years because then they go back on it. It's like, did I really have to write that? Can I include something different in it? How will it flow?
I think, I mean, there's so much that, I mean, it's one way of having a relationship with yourself when you write, and any art really, but like in writing, you have this really super clear conversation with yourself from the past. It can be about anything and maybe not specifically about you, but it's a natural thing to want to spend time with that, I think. Have you ever written a poem in another language? Speaking of the art of
I have not because I have not. It would be a really good challenge. And before I write it in another language, I would have to submit it to my language partners first to make sure everything's clear. But I got a tattoo in Russian.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you don't have to show us. I don't know where the tattoo is. Oh, okay.
It's right here.
All right.
This is the feminine version of Fearless because it's all in the acrylics.
Beautiful.
The Cyrillic. Biestrashnaya. So it means this is anytime there's a backwards R, that's a ya. So aya, that's feminine. So it's the feminine version of saying fearless because Russian has masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural. So I had to make sure it was feminine, but I had to get that clarified first.
I bet. That's a beautiful tattoo. And of course, fearless. That's, I think, a wonderful way of describing everything you work to embody and own for yourself, is how to move forward in life and live life as fully and beautifully and compassionately as you can.
Exactly. And I had to learn too, I had to learn how to have a relationship with myself first before seeking out a relationship with somebody else. I'm finally at that point that I've recognized it. And I'm like, you know what? It actually feels good.
Yeah. And, just like that poem you work on, maybe our relationship with ourselves there'll always be time to adjust and change and add new things along the way. Oh, wow. Okay. So we've talked about so many things in this live stream. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you today and just reconnecting again this way.
Thank you.
And we always like to ask everyone we chat with if they have any, I don't know, thoughts or wisdom or advice. Seems too heavy, but Looking back at the artist and the creative person you were in the past, is there anything that you know now that you wish you'd known then? Something that you might pass along to someone who might be listening in that place for themselves right now?
I'd probably say for the creative side, with knitting, it would be you'll have to do several projects before you finally get it right. Be patient with creative. Anything else in life I've learned, be patient. Be patient, be consistent. And if you're not, like, say if you weren't consistent or whatever, forgive yourself for your mistakes, forgive yourself, but get yourself back up. And something that somebody actually shared with me that I wish someone would have shared with me many years ago.
Yeah.
It was during horseback riding lessons. Don't let one bad experience ruin it for you. That was doing horseback riding lessons, and I love the horses, but the lady, she shared that with me. She's like, you know what, there's going to be good rides, bad rides, but don't let one bad experience with the horse don't let that one bad experience ruin it for you. And it's like with the creative side, don't let one bad thing ruin it. Or with the gym, don't let one bad workout or one bad run or one bad race ruin it.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. And I'm still learning that, because for a while I had a bad experience at peer group many years ago, and I'm still realizing that, just because there was one bad autistic person, I learned that they're not all bad people. When I met a guy that was also autistic, went to see the lights, he was a good person. And I'm like, you know what? They aren't, just because one person was bad or those few people were bad, set your boundaries, but it doesn't mean that they're all bad people. They're human.
Yeah. It's hard though. And I think there's a lot of us out there who can relate to that. Sometimes the bad experiences or the experiences that hurt us can really take hold inside of ourselves. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage and a lot of openness to be able to move forward and not let that define our life and who we build relationships with.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, even I've had to relearn, like, generalizing, just the generalizing. I had to learn about that, because I thought, oh, all these people, they're all bad. This group of people, they're all bad people, because I had experience. And I'm like, you know what? No. I had to shift my mindset to where it's like, you know what? Not everyone from this group of people is a bad person. It's that one bad person. It's because of that one bad person, they're ruining it for the good people in that community or in that group. And it's because of that bad person, people who haven't been exposed to others in that community, the good ones get taken for granted. And I'm still working on that.
I think we can all work on that.
Yeah.
Right. I think and then it's like being aware of our biases and our assumptions and working forward to clarify those assumptions and not let that prevent us from having wonderful adventures and getting to know people. That's a journey for all of us in lots of different little or big ways. And it's something, again, that wonderful honesty that you bring to the conversation, that you can acknowledge you've been there and I've been there, right?
Yeah.
That means once we acknowledge it, we can work on it and we can move forward, right?
Exactly. Like, for me, I'm a person that what I've learned about myself is I value honesty. I value honesty. I value loyalty. I value loyalty.
Hmm.
That's the one thing. That's the advantage of being. Another thing is I'm fiercely loyal,
Okay.
fiercely loyal, and fiercely committed. I'm committed to any task that I perform. If I was ever with somebody, I'm a fierce loyal. I'm fiercely loyal. I would prioritize. They would be, I would prioritize that person or anything in my life that I'm very loyal to. I often prioritize family. That's priority.
Well, I'm glad that it sounds like in the last little while that you have become fiercely loyal to yourself and that you've learned how to prioritize yourself and your wellness, whether that's creative wellness, physical, mental health wellness. You're an inspiration, Lisa. And I'm so glad that you were able to join us today and be our last Instagram artist chat of 2021. What a fantastic conversation to end the year, wrap up the year on. I look forward to connecting again in 2022 and seeing how you're doing.
Yes, I think I'm done with 2021. Like there's been a lot that's 2021, there's been a lot that's happened, and I'm at the point like 2022, I'm ready to come out of it stronger. I'm ready to come out of it stronger, wiser. I'm ready. It's a second chance. 2022 is going to be a year of second chances. If there is second chances or a new beginning and bigger goals.
Wow. Wow. All right, Lisa. Okay, we'll have to check back in then and see how things are going. And you know what, for folks out there, it could be third chances, fourth chances, fifth chances. I'm a big believer in other chances. I think there's never a lost opportunity.
Exactly. And I think the thing that I've learned, one thing my dad's passing taught me is if you're given a chance at life or you're given a chance at anything, an opportunity comes, take it, because life's too short. Don't take it for granted. And you got to take care of yourself. You have to be happy first. You can't be happy on someone else's time. You can't build happiness on someone's misfortune. You can't be happy on someone else's time. You have to find that happiness, find that purpose.
Oh, that's so lovely. Lisa, we're going to be timed out, so I'm going to wrap things up, but I think that is a perfect place to leave things on.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be in this stream.
Oh, I'm grateful for you being here and just being in our community in life in general. Have a fantastic holiday rest, and I look forward to connecting with you again. If folks want to follow you or learn more about you online, how can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram, Lisa Kozma, The Autistic Life.
Okay.
Or they can also follow my TikTok. My TikTok page has different videos, or on Facebook, it's just Lisa Kozma.
Okay. And what's your handle on TikTok?
It's the same as Instagram.
So Lisa Kozma, The Autistic Life.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Lisa, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Pleasure chatting with you too.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
Oh, oh, thanks so much for joining us today, folks. Life is precious. Life is beautiful. Please take care of yourselves out there. And we're not going to see one another on any virtual live streams for a little bit because the living room will be taking a break. But I hope you get to join us this Thursday for the reveal of our mobile art studio on YouTube. Check it out. But otherwise, until we can connect and create with one another in person, I look forward to connecting and creating with you right here online and hopefully out there in the community in 2022. Take care. And thanks again for Lisa for joining us. And see you soon. Bye, everybody.